Hey,
Hello,
hey, hey, hi
everybody.
guys. Welcome to another gym time with
Yeah,
myself, Debbie, and my
me,
brother,
Maurice. Me,
Maurice.
Maurice.
Well, as you guys know, he calls himself Maurice, that's his name, but I call him Paul, been brought up with his name as Paul, but you guys have to call him Maurice. So, how you
Some,
doing, bro?
some people on here though will know me as Maurice as well.
Absolutely.
The odd one and two, but I don't mind who calls me as long as you don't call me dog. I'm all right with that. Yeah? I'm all right with that.
But
Oh,
you're good, you're
I've
good.
had a crazy journey, crazy day. Would you believe, everybody? I've been up since 5:30 this morning. Traveled down to London. Unfortunately, we lost a family member, so we're going to that tomorrow. But it was mad from 7:30 to 1:30 before I got to London. That's how much traffic. I got to London at 11 o'clock.
I know, that's nuts. That's
It's
crazy.
crazy. But
So,
I'm
hi
here.
everyone in the chat. I can see there's a few of you in the chat. Let us know where you are chiming in from. And for those of you on Instagram, hi, welcome to Gym Time. I'm still trying to work out the technicalities around Instagram because every time I go on, it just seems to mess up. I don't know. I can't see the chat.
And the Facebook one tells me to start a live, but it goes live on my phone, so I'd have to turn my phone around.
Right.
But I got my notes on there.
Yeah. The good thing is that they're on Instagram and they can actually see and hear what's going on. So welcome to everyone on there. And tonight we have somebody else who is joining us. He's one of my work colleagues, and I just thought it would be good to have somebody else's voice on this subject. So Absolutely. It's like 2 men against me, guys. So yeah, I don't mind because I really want a different perspective, and me and my brother's been brought up in the same household. We have very similar values, and so it's good to bring on another voice just to hear what somebody else is saying about their experience, their emotions, or emotions of their friends or family around them. It's just good to have other people's perspective. And as we've said before, you guys are welcome to joining us on the platform. We would just send you a link and you can jump on and
like right now.
Yeah,
like right now.
We can even today. It's not an issue. This show is about you guys, and we're all on a journey. We're all empowering each other. We're all having those conversations that are really necessary to have. And you'll see a million of different platforms, and what you can go and listen to podcasts. But we just want to bring it real. We don't do no editing or anything like that. We just bring it to you real and raw. So, with that being said, Paul, are you going to go ahead with your disclaimer, and then I'll go after you?
My disclaimer. Right. We're here to motivate, empower, encourage you, open up your mind to different possibilities in resolving conflict in your relationships. We hope that you'll take some of the nuggets, what we found useful. I definitely found a lot of things useful, and I do apply a lot of what we talk about as well. And it works for me. I fine tune it here and there. So that's what I'm saying. Take and fine tune the information that we give to you, and make it work for you. But every week I say this, and it's true. From last year, I said this: if it don't work, no, cut me neck. Yeah, don't cut me neck. Or Debbie's.
Yeah. Innit? You always say don't cut your neck, don't cut mine either. You know what I mean?
It's kind of like I was shoving the blame on you. But that's my disclaimer. Be encouraged, and I hope you enjoy this session. A lot of feedback from last week. Thank you very much, guys. A lot of views as well. And do participate with us as well. If you're on Instagram and you want to send a message, join us on YouTube. Jump over to YouTube and find us, and then you can subscribe, like and subscribe, and you can leave the comments in, because we do have a chat on this platform. When you put it in there, we'll get the messages as well. Okay, that's all. Over to you, Debbie.
Absolutely. So, as my brother has said, we're really here to inspire, motivate, and uplift you. And I say it like this: I don't know everything, but what I do know, I will absolutely share with you. I am a mentor, I am a coach, and I'm a counselor. And I'm a human being that has experienced life, you know. So what we do share, we share wholeheartedly. We're not like trying to hide stuff. We either it works for us or it doesn't, and we'll just be honest and say, yeah, we've done that and it's worked, and other times it hasn't. So, you know, very vulnerable, very transparent platform. And so we're really here to just go on the journey with you guys and help wherever we can. So that's our display. I actually wanted to say last week's show was phenomenal. The feedback from that was nuts. You know, you guys did so well in the chat. That's what we want for this week. So if you guys are on and you're listening, please, please, please share. I tell everybody, I send it out to hundreds of people and I tell them to share. I know that some people listen to the replays, but marriage and menopause was really a good one as well, which was the week before. Last week was about pornography and the effects and impacts that it has on your relationship. And then tonight it's men and their emotions. And I think that the reason why we wanted to do this subject is because it's one of those subjects that people don't really talk about that much. And not just that, some, especially women, think that men are void of emotions. However, we're all human beings and we all have emotions. It's just the way how men choose to show their emotions or not show their emotions. And so we thought it was a really good topic to bring to you guys. And so, yeah, are you going to go ahead and kick it off, Paul?
Yeah, I will do actually. Because what I want to do is I want to press the live on the Facebook as well. So if I do the...
Okay, so let me bring in Ross first. Let me bring in Ross. As I said, Ross is one of my colleagues from work and he works, you know, in the same field as me, obviously, because he's in the same workplace, but he works in the same field. We talk heavily about domestic violence because he works in that area. And as some of you know, I do domestic violence. I do the whole empowerment, the awareness and support women who's gone through domestic violence. So we've had some conversations and I felt as though his voice would really be beneficial to this conversation. So we're going to introduce Ross to you and Ross can introduce himself in whichever way he desires to. So Ross, welcome to the platform. Welcome to Gym Time.
Welcome, Ross.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you. So hi, guys. I'm Ross. As you heard, I work with Debbie, and I thought when I got this invitation, I didn't know how to take it, to be honest, because Debbie sees me as an outspoken person. And if I'm honest with you, now I've been put in this position, I don't feel very outspoken, if I'm honest with you. But yeah, I've come to see how it goes and give my opinion and, you know, see if I can help anybody as well as Debbie and Maurice.
Awesome. So, Ross, did you share it with your friends and family, or was you trying to hide, Ross?
No, I did share it. I did share it. I did say to some people, don't watch it until after the live.
Well, I'll let you know, Ross, we do not edit. So anything that you say on here will be
held accountable.
Okay.
So
do I get a disclaimer? Do I get a disclaimer? No, I'm joking.
So if there's something that you don't want to say or you don't want to name certain people, don't name them. Do you know what I mean? Because we do not edit. We just we like it raw and we like it to be real so that people can, you know, look at what we're talking about. So go ahead, Paul. Let's kick this off.
Yeah, well, you know, in my studies in itself, I came across a little chat on is it Quora? Is it called Quora?
Yeah. I think it's Quora.
And they were talking about this subject as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree somewhat with this. Let me just read one, because we're talking about men and emotions. It doesn't start as men. It starts as boys.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we're told you're a little sissy if you're acting a particular way. So I'll read this. This was a person, Prima Tilson, lives in Wellington, New Zealand. She's the author of this particular, what do you call it? Thread. Thank you. Young boys are actually more emotional than girls. Remember, this is her opinion, and some of you may have the same opinion or it may differ. Young boys are actually more emotional than girls. Then the conditioning starts. Boys don't cry. Toughen up. Don't be a baby. Oh, don't be a baby girl, sissy, wimp, wuss man, and so on and so on. Studies have shown that if people believe a crying infant is a female, they are more likely to comfort it. If they think it's a boy, they are more likely to leave the baby to cry it out. We start suffocating our boys' emotional lives almost from the moment of birth. And when you think about it, there's a little truth behind that. When we're in school, primary school especially, or even nursery, if you want to go as far back as that, you'll hear, "Oh, you cry, baby," to a boy.
Mm-hmm.
So you then digest that. "I mustn't cry," and you hear it. Men don't cry. And while I was thinking about this subject, it was Mike Tyson, the heavyweight champion of the world. Yeah. When does your emotion then come out that you show yourself, no matter how tough you are? It was when for him, it's probably other times, but on camera, you saw him broken when he lost his child. When his child died, he was distraught that his voice, he was speaking right back in the back of his voice, and he cried. And I agree that trauma obviously can cause that, but I do agree that as a man, you're conditioned not to cry. Me personally, growing up, I cried like a baby. Yeah. Notice I didn't say like a girl. Yeah, like a baby. Because babies cry, don't they?
Absolutely.
The thing is that I was emotional. I was in tune with my circumstance. See, that's the difference. When you're in tune with your circumstance. When I went through my first divorce, when it had broke up, I think I was 24, 25, something like that. And I could have been older. I cried for 1 week knowing that this relationship was broken up, this marriage, but moreover, that I wasn't going to be in the same house as my child. That I cried for a week every day and night. And I'm not ashamed to say that, because pain is pain. That's emotional right. Pain. What do I do? You know what? And some people may do that. Like, I saw life go. Mm. It isn't how life goes. It's the circumstances that life has brought. And if it hurts, it's okay to cry. I was with, it was my father-in-law's second memorial. And I'm going to stop in a minute. And my wife and I went to the grave, and we saw my wife's nephew there, because he's the one who found his granddad. And he was there, and him and I was talking. And in the midst of all of that, he started to cry. He's a young man. I think he's 23, I think he said to me. He wept. The tears started to run down, and I'm hugging him and I'm wiping his tears away as they're coming, and talking to him, encouraging him that it's okay to cry. There's nothing wrong with allowing the tears to come out. And I felt the emotion of him, that I wanted to cry. Tears were welling up in my eyes, because it is okay to allow the pain out. That's what it is. It allows it out. And I say that because I went through a period where I didn't cry. I said, I ain't crying no more. And I meant it. I weren't crying at all. I digested all the rest of the pain that came up in relationship, and I would not cry. I said, I will not break. Oh, I broke in the end. And whether it took a month or whatever, I had to go back to reset mode, yeah, which was the default mode to allow myself to heal, heal of any emotional pain. Women have a tendency to cry it out with a girlfriend, with a bottle of wine, whatever. Don't drink wine when you're depressed or you're upset. Don't drink it. It'll make you cry even more. Cobalt. It's something you've got to release. And when you release it, men, when you release all the trauma, all the heartache, all the disappointments, all the rejection, all the things that didn't work, yeah, you'll see what I'm talking about. Because me, I call myself a man. Do I cry? Yes. I'm an emotional guy. People say, oh, you're in touch with your feminine side. There's nothing feminine in that. It's normal behavior to feel pain and let it out. That's me.
Do you know what? I wasn't expecting you to go there. Like, I wasn't expecting.
I didn't know where I was going either.
No, I wasn't expecting you to go back to the beginning, but that's where it starts. That's exactly where it starts. What are your thoughts on it, Ross?
I completely agree. It does begin from when you're a child, and if I'm honest with you, I sort of had that. Grow up. You're supposed to be a boy. You're supposed to be. You're going to be a man one day. What people are going to think of you. So when you're taking on all of those things as a child, you don't know what to make of it. So you had no choice but to go along with what you have been told, because essentially the people that are telling you that are the people that teach you. It's the first stages of your life. Do you get it? So I completely agree. And it takes me back to a situation where, my uncle died about 5-6 years ago. And, I thought I was a man until the day that I was asked to carry his coffin. And like, I don't think I've ever been so emotional, especially for the fact that, my uncle died in his 50s. And, I was standing alongside his son, which was even more upsetting because he was in tears, I was in tears. I don't think I've ever cried so much. And because of over the years before that, there's so much traumatic things that have happened to me from childhood up until, teenage years. I think the cries that I cried throughout that period of my uncle dying, I think I let out a lot of the cries from all of those years. And I remember after the funeral, I think it was about a week after the funeral, I texted my cousin and I said to him, I've never felt so privileged to, carry your dad. And just writing that message, I was crying for like I couldn't stop. My eyes were running. I tried to stop. I was by myself at the time and I still tried to fix up and say, no, you're a man kind of thing. Do you see what I'm trying to say? So I'm carrying that with me still, essentially, up until this day. And I think having that cry made me want to speak to people more. That's what I would say. So it's kind of opened up my third eye in the sense that I can see things that I couldn't see before now that I've been able to let all that pressure out.
Yeah. So something that I can relate to is what you just touched on. So sometimes what happens in a space where there's trauma and there's bereavement and there's been loss, it opens you up to grieve. And that grieving can be childhood grieving, it can be teenage grieving, it can be whatever grieving it is, but it opens you up. It makes you be in that vulnerable space. And if you're around people who are accepting of you to cry, you will cry and you will cry about that situation, but then you cry a certain type of crying and you think, this is a little bit more than this person passing away, especially because this happened to me when this lady that I knew, she passed away. And I was thinking to myself, Debbie, why are you crying so much? Like, I was at home and I was just crying. I was thinking, why am I crying so much? This is deep. And then I realized it wasn't just about that. It wasn't just about losing that person. There was other things that I hadn't cried about, and it came forward, and it was just like it opened up almost like a can of worms, as they say. But I really wanted to say thanks to both of you for expressing about the necessity to cry and the ability to cry in situations where it's normal to cry. How about in situations where people are not expecting you to cry? So if, like, for instance, you break up with someone, you take the initiative to break up with that person because the relationship was quite challenging, and you find yourself in that emotional space where you feel like you want to cry, but you're like, child, I'm not even going to cry about this because, boy, the relationship weren't going well, or, you know, she weren't all that anyway, or, you know, because sometimes the reason why men, from my perspective, don't cry is because they tell themselves something that often is a lie so that they don't have to cry. So if they're in a relationship with someone and it's not going well, sometimes what I find is that men self-sabotage, just like women, but we're talking about men today. Self-sabotage. There's an insecurity there, there's a fear there that the relationship might break down, she might not want me, and so forth. So they take the initiative to break off. Don't really want to, but they do that. And then they say, I'm not going to cry about it. Even when they feel that emotion, they're not going to cry about it because it's like, you know, I've made that decision and I'm sticking by it. What do you do in situations where, I'm going to throw this out to you, Ross, where you purposely do not cry and you tell yourself reasons why you shouldn't?
I'm going to use the example you kind of just use in relationship terms. You know, you've broken up with somebody. I've told again, I don't know, I can't remember exactly what it is, but I asked myself, was it a lie, or did I break up from that relationship for the right reasons? But to cope from it, was I telling myself a lie? And I don't know if people want to chat, if there's any men in the chat that want to agree with me or not. But my thing was, I don't care.
Yeah.
That's what it goes back to, straight to I don't care. Yeah. And if I convince myself that I don't care, then I've kind of got most of my foot through the door in that sense.
That's right.
And I think as I've grown, I can't say that I don't care no more. You see what I mean? I can't say it no more because I do. True. Yeah, because I do care. So yeah, in the past it's been I don't care, and that's just got me through most things. But that same I don't care has masked a lot. It's got a lot of internal anger. You know, like I remember growing up. There's a stage that I was growing up in my life, and I was very angry. I don't know what I was angry for, but I was angry. When I sat down and thought about it, and said, "Bro, Ross, why are you angry?" And then I realized there was no reason for me being angry. So I think it was more the lifestyle that kept me angry at the time, because the things that I was doing, do you see what I'm trying to say? So I was sort of manifesting the lifestyle, how it was going into my emotions and how I was feeling. But I didn't, like, again, it's only until I realized, oh, right, you're actually angry for no reason. Maybe there's something that you need to change. So for argument's sake, there was a period in my life where I was listening to only rap. If it wasn't rap, I wasn't listening to it. And I think I've had this conversation with you before, Debbie, about frequency. I believe in frequencies a lot now. And when you think about rap music gives a lot of negative frequencies. So for argument's sake, I'm going to use this example. So there's a period of I was going to bed at night time. I might watch something on YouTube or do something, whatever I'm doing. But when I'm getting ready to get my downtime and get ready for bed, I'll put on some like frequency music. And if you go on YouTube, you'll find loads of different types of frequency music. And the healing. It could be for stress. It could be for bad energy. It could be for anything. And I said this to my my partner. I said to her that since I've been listening to this, I actually feel a bit different. I don't know if it's a subconscious thing, but I actually feel a little bit different within myself. Like I feel more positive. I feel like I want to do more things. I don't feel as when like I had really bad road rage. I'll be honest with you, really bad road rage. And now when somebody cuts me up, it's like, so what is one car in front of me? Like, I'm
Yeah.
actually saying that to myself
Yeah.
now.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I'm going to read some of the people, some of the chat. Hi, guys. Thanks for joining us. Petal Blossom says, my son has definitely always been more emotional than my daughter. And I think that was like from the beginning, Paul, when you was talking about...
it starts at childhood.
It starts at childhood. So Amidas has said, I'm in the house, and what is that? Crying is cathartic, which is cleansing. And in relation to you saying about crying, she said Jesus wept. Absolutely. Again, we have better future partners. If you allow your boys to cry, they grow up with less pent-up anger, and they and know they can release the pressure. I think that there's one more. Again, better future partners says, the men have been taught and conditioned often by their mothers not to cry. They do not just grow up that way. They have been desanitized by the system they grow up in. Absolutely. But I also will say, not just the mothers, because I think that mothers, like me as a mother, and I only can speak about myself and my friends that are around me, most of us have been the ones that have saying it's okay to cry. It's been their dads that are there saying, like, man up. Do you get what I mean? You don't need to cry. And what typically happens as well is, if a child is grown up in a single parent home and it's just the mother, they take on a masculine role. They take on like a father role. They take on this role, and then they feel as though they can't cry. They feel as though they have to man up and step up and be the man of the house. You hear it being said, be the man of the house, be the man of the house. They're a child. Do you know what I mean? They're not your husband.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They're not your best friend or anything like that. But if there's an absent father, some of these young boys feel as though they have to man up and they have to be there for their siblings, and they don't have the opportunity to cry, and they don't have the opportunity to be a young child and cry. And I think that, you know, we always have to go back to base. To base. We're always going to have to look at what has happened in this person's life from childhood right the way up. And also, Ross, you work with the men, don't you? Domestic violence.
Yeah.
And you support them. And so the challenges that you probably will experience, you probably can share a little bit about that, is the fact that these men find it really frustrating to deal with their emotions, and then they take it out physically on some of these women. Give us a little bit of insight on what you actually think in terms of their emotions and how that probably manifests, because they're not, you know, expressing it in any other way.
So obviously I'm not going to mention no names, but I want to use one of the fathers. Yeah, one of the fathers as an example. So his he's currently with his partner. It wasn't so much domestic violence as in itself, but his partner had experienced domestic violence beforehand. So I think there was a bit of fight and flight from the mother's side. And I think where she was more flight in the first relationship, I think in this relationship, she was currently like, fight, because I've been through it before. I'm not going to go for it again, kind of thing. And I think it got to a point where, you know, there was a lot of pent up anger from the dad, because he felt like his voice wasn't heard. So when he did try to have a chat and speak about it, it became an argument, and an argument became violence, and it was violence between two people rather than just the one, for argument's sake. So, and I'm not saying that he was right in his situation or he was wrong in his situation, but I feel like he's mentioned again over the years the same things that we've already mentioned. Really, is that you wasn't allowed to be, you weren't allowed to cry, you weren't allowed to be upset. It was more about being angry, not being angry, but being that defensive person, always having your chest up high, being proud of who you are. Not that sometimes, you know, you have to take these things on the chin and just sit back and think about what's happened, what you've gone through. He's never had that chat. He's always had, you know, stand up and fight for what you believe in, stand up and fight for what you believe in, which I think everybody should, but everybody should to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And I believe that in that particular relationship, it was pent up anger from his past, from his partner's past, that created a situation where where he did try to speak to his partner, or his partner did try to speak to him, that nobody was able to get their point across because everybody was right, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
So that's an example I'm going to use.
That's
Here's a
awesome.
question for you, Debbie.
Yeah.
I was reading something here and I was listening to all this. Sometimes you get some women that say that certain men are too emotional or they're too soft, and they reject that man because they are too emotional. What's your thought on that? About men who express themselves gentle, balance, because I think that there's a balance, but I'll talk about that in a minute. But men who will express their emotions, wanting to find out how you feel, or they're telling you how they feel about a situation. There's some women that say, you know what, you just it is too soft for me, man. You just what's your take on that?
So I think,
and what do you think that men who encounter that in their relationship should do? So it's a two-part.
yeah. So I think that you're absolutely right. I think that I think you actually said it. There needs to be a balance. I think that oftentimes, because the woman expects most women expects the man to have the main role. They expect them to be a protector. They expect them to be somebody who is strong, who's able to look after, who's able to defend. And when a man speaks like what a woman would consider like a female, they kind of feel like this man is a little bit soft. However, I think that it's about having the balance. I think that if you've got somebody who is constantly crying, not able to control their emotions, it's not a good thing, because you're dealing with somebody who you're like, as a woman, you're a natural nurturer, and you're naturally gonna, well, I can't say naturally, but because not every woman nurtures very well, but you're gonna want to nurture. But when it becomes you're in a position where this person is not able to keep it together emotionally, they're breaking down, they're crying, they you're not feeling as though this person is going to protect you. You're not feeling like this person's going to be the head. You're not feeling like this person is able to take the pressure and the weight of life. And so I think it's necessary to have a balance. A woman saying to a man is a wuss and everything, all you're doing is just making it worse. You're not going to make it any better. You're making him cry even more. Do you know what I mean? It's for you to empower him, listen to him, and express from a perspective of knowing about that person's emotions, knowing that they're going to feel these emotions, knowing that it's valid, but also expressing that you need strength. You need somebody who's going to be able to withstand pressure. I think that if a man is really emotionally and broken down like that, I think he needs a lot of support. I think he needs help, because they were and I was looking at it even like when I was studying it, and when the man gets to a place where he is crying too much, and when I say too much, I'm talking about not able to have a conversation without getting emotional, without breaking down crying, that's too much. I know people who this has happened to, and their stance has been, oh, man up. Do you know what I mean? He just acts like a boy. He just, they use the P word and stuff like that. You're not empowering a man. You need to be able to say, you know what, I hear you, and this is really challenging. And, I think that it probably will be good if you got some kind of support, but really listen to what they're going through. Because also some of these men may have been brought up in a single parent home as well. And what's the word? They're reflecting what they've seen their mothers do and expressing their emotions for like openly and freely. But again, those type of men will get hurt more than a man who's not showing their emotions, because they're very vulnerable, they're very open, they're very transparent, and some women will just slap you down. you know, like literally physically slap you down because you're not portraying that masculinity that a woman actually thinks that she needs. I hope that that's answered your question.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I was just reading on Mission Harbor Behavioral Health. If any of you want to look on there, because they've got a part that men and emotions, the importance of becoming vulnerable. And it is about being vulnerable. See, there's nothing wrong in crying. There's nothing wrong in expressing yourself, but everything and you said it, in leading, yeah, and not leading because you want control, but being able to say, here I am. Yes, I am emotionally, let's say, distraught at this time. However, this doesn't define me. This doesn't make me weak. This actually is making me stronger and again, I think that the dialogue, you know, because I found, I'll give you a for instance about myself. When I was younger, and you, Debbie, no, not really. When you, Michael, used to mock me and draw pictures of me, and draw some crazy pictures, and my mum would laugh as well. Then I go to school, and I was teased at school for having big lips and big eyes and big nose. And right now, this is what people want, yeah. But however, let's just move that aside. I was distraught because I had no refuge. I cried more than anybody ever knows. You know, come home and I used to just feel emotional. I used to feel I'm ugly because everybody's laughing at me. And one day I heard something in myself. Look in the mirror. And I looked in the mirror, and I told this story on one of the shows. And I told myself what was good about myself. Yeah. Because I looked sad. I looked deep. I stood there and looked at myself deep, and I looked in my eyes. I saw sadness. So I told myself, you got lovely eyes. They're big, round, and beautiful. That's how God made them to be. I said, your nose fits your face. Yeah, I couldn't have a little nose like this because it wouldn't suit my face. And I couldn't have a nose that spread out here because, again, it wouldn't suit my face. My lips are big. It fits. Everything fits into place. Yeah, even my small ears, Debbie. You know, I told myself the positive things about myself. You know, and that started the healing process. It gave me more confidence in myself.
Absolutely.
You know, as opposed to feeling I'm in a relationship and I'm thinking, what's she with me for? You know, and I shouldn't be thinking that. I should be thinking my personality, on the way I dress, the way I look, or all of me is why she's with me. And I used to self-sabotage, Ross. My goodness me, so many times over and over, because and you said it earlier, I create something in my head, you know, that's true to me. So I was able to self-sabotage and walk away from the relationships and said, you know what? I don't care, because I can get another girlfriend. And then I get another girlfriend. And it'd be something that I didn't like and I didn't express it. I don't want to be with her anymore. And I started to fall into a habit of self-sabotaging because I was emotionally distraught. And that's a different show about my childhood in foster care. And I've probably mentioned it bits and pieces, but one day we'll do a show on, maybe we'll do a show on foster care men.
It impacts,
and how it impacts you, because it does impact you.
Absolutely.
You know? But I had to learn to love myself. I had to not care about what others thought of me over what I thought of myself. You know, and that was the process that I went through. Now I'm confident about me. I see me now. You know, I see my personality. I see a lot about me but I haven't lost the emotion. I haven't lost expressing my heart. Because if I'm showing you my heart and you can't deal with me showing it, then you don't deserve it. I should be able to show you my vulnerability, the weakness of me, and you love me for that. Knowing full well that when you love me, because men want to be supported in when they're right and when they're wrong. We like to be right. We like to fix things. We like to, and if we're distraught, sometimes we can't fix ourselves, and we need a supportive woman to help us to fix, and we're going to have to show them their emotion. And if she's not fixing, if she's not encouraging you and empowering you and saying, you know what, I love you regardless of that, and you will get through this, you'll get through the trauma of your childhood, as opposed to, so that's why you're the way you are. No. Or, no, sir, me's not your mother. That's the one that you hear. I'm not your mum. I'm not here to fix your emotions. But no, you're his partner. God said he made women to be a helpmate. That means there's things in you as a woman that can help fix us men when we're going through, because you're a helpmate. You'll help us to see clearly. You'll help us to say, you know what? Yeah, not man up, but you know what? You feel low right now, but I know that in you is that strength of a man, that male strength to lead, and I'll allow you to lead, and I'll allow you to be vulnerable at the same time. I love you regardless. I'm not talking about like you. I just don't know what to do. Well, he's discouraged. Yeah. If you had a child and the child is doing that, you'd want to encourage him. If you had a friend and he was a male friend and it's like that, you would encourage him. Now you have a man that's like that, then why don't you encourage him? That's my thoughts anyway.
Yeah. So do you know what this makes me think about? I want to say, I don't want to admit it, yeah, but I want to say that I wouldn't say I matured properly until my late 20s. So I think it's between my late 20s, I'm 37 now, by the way, but between my late 20s and where I am now, I think I've learned more about myself in that period of time than I did in the first 20 odd years of my life. And that's because, again, I didn't open myself emotionally. And I think where I'm a bit more open emotionally, I've learned so much about myself. So I don't know, maybe that could be a tip for men that watch the show, for argument's sake. Like, allow yourself to be emotionally vulnerable to somebody and to see how it makes you feel, for argument's sake. Because again, I've done it. But what I do know is that as men, we see things like this as a sign of weakness. And no man wants to really appear weak in this world, but we've got to come to terms with everyone's got this weakness. Everyone's got a weakness, whether we like it or not. Whether you tell somebody about your weakness or not, you've still got that weakness either way. Either way, you've still got it. So that for me, it's about being able to speak to somebody and allowing yourself to be vulnerable to that person and be trusting. But you also have to be trusting within the person that you're being that vulnerable with.
That's right.
Because again, the sabotage can come with that, and it's not going to help you emotionally. So you've got to think about that's also, so that brings me to the cohort of people that you've got around you. So growing up, the cohort of people that I had around me, there was no emotional stuff whatsoever. If anybody was emotional, somebody's like, we got you. Like, take a picture quickly. Like, it's kind of like that, we got you. But again, as I've moved on from that kind of lifestyle, the people that I used to hang around with from before, you get away from that. And then, so for argument's sake, I want to use this as an example. So I started working really late in my life. And, I've gone to work and, used to hear people talk about situations and, I would have done this. And, why don't you run? And da-da-da-da. And I think to myself, hold on a minute. That guy, this happened in front of you. And you didn't do nothing about it. It makes me realize that so many people come from so many different backgrounds that you can't expect everybody to act like you.
That's right.
Yes.
And I didn't learn that until I started working, because people come from all walks of different backgrounds. Whereas when I was hanging around with the people I was hanging around, we were all similar. So now you've got things from different people's perspectives, and you're learning new stuff. So that's something to think about as well, I think.
That's awesome. I wanted to say that, I was looking at and thinking about reasons why men might struggle with their emotions. And this is just a few of things that, I thought about. And I think it's good if the men are to think about what are the things that stops them from being vulnerable, but also the reasons why they may struggle with showing their emotions. I think it's important. One of the things that I know that is really challenging, the reason why men sometimes are not in touch with their emotions, especially if they've been in relationship after relationship after relationship and haven't spent no time by themselves, they find it very difficult to be in touch with their emotions because they're going from one person to the next and they're not having time with themselves to process thoughts and feelings that will naturally come up from when you're being in a relationship. You just roll over to the next person and the next person and the next person. And women tend to have, not all women, but they tend to have time by themselves. And also what you said earlier on, Paul, is that they're talking through the process. They're talking through their emotions with their friends, whereas men, they're not talking. They will go out with their mates and it's like, let's go to a rave. Let's go and do football. Let's do this. Let's go and do that. They're not sitting down and talking like man to man and saying, boy, yeah, this upset me, this hurt me, my girl did this or my wife did that, and and getting that feedback. It will be more. So I know that there's been men that I've known in my lifetime, and they've said, you know what, boy, it's you just don't get that kind of space. Like, you women, you will sit and you will chat about certain things and you will trash it out. But the moment you go and you say something to your brethren, everyone starts busting up laughing. Do you get what I mean? They start laughing and saying, gee, really? Like, what, you got the girl doing you like that? What? You're mad. No, you ain't gonna do me that. Do you know what I mean? And
it's maturity that makes you, because me and my male friends, yeah, I have a good friend. He's my best friend for 40 years, 40 years plus now. And no, we never talk like that in the beginning.
No, that's what
but
I'm saying.
But when he was hurt as a teenager, he cried and I hugged him, and telling him whatever I told him at the time, because he was hurt.
You probably said, you'll get another girlfriend.
No, but that was the only time.
Knowing you.
I didn't actually. Not this
Don't worry, mate,
girl.
you'll get another girlfriend.
He was stuck on her, believe me. I mean, he did get another girlfriend anyway, but the fact that he identified that he had this deep feeling for her, or we can say love, he was able to turn to me. We were at a wedding, so I couldn't really say much to him. I would enjoy the wedding and drink the drink and yum the food, but we never had that moment again until years later. Being able to talk as real men, and I'm going to say that, I say it again, talk as real men about our feelings. What upsets us in a relationship, it might be similar. Matter of fact, most men, and I say this to you men, if you're watching this live or you're watching the replay, if you talk to other men and express yourself, you will see that you will have the same in common with one another. And then what you do, not feed into it to say, yeah, you know what, if I was you, I'd just trash her, man, she's gone. But being able to use different analogies or different situations to encourage the person to make the relationship right. Or if you're not married, and I say it like that, leave. Because if it's not working and you're not being supportive, or being supported by, as I said again, expressing yourself, the real you, or if your friends, your male friends, they, what? Like you said, is that she got you? Man, washing up and doing all the housework, and I don't do none of that. Listen.
This time they're in there with the Hoover.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I don't do any of that.
Making the bed.
The apron on and the hoovering up. Do you know what I mean? With the feather duster, feathering.
That's
why they want to try and...
They got the apron on.
The apron on, the fully apron. They want to mask it. Do you know what I mean? And try and act like, nah, what? No, man. When I go in, I just chew on the sofa and everything. My girl bring me my dinner. This time you're in the kitchen cooking up and everything, because they don't want to act like this is what they do.
See, the thing about it is sitting down.
Sorry, go on.
No, sitting down, and there's nothing wrong with your wife partner serving you. There's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with it. But stop trying to act like you don't do nothing.
But how many times do you serve her? It's not a woman's job per se to just women get exhausted. Women go through emotional, as we did the menopause and stuff like that. I'll just let me just touch a note, right? And I'm going to stop on this. And I want to read something from Mission Harbor. I was up at 5:30 this morning. Normally, I don't get up in the morning to because I'm in pain in the mornings. The different things that's happening to my body, but I got up this morning because I knew I was coming to London, regardless of how I felt. And while my wife was I showered and dressed before she did. Then she came out and she's showering. I came upstairs and was just talking. I said, look, after you finish showering one of the children, send them down so I can give them their breakfast. And the next one, and next one. And by the time we finished, or by the time I finished, my wife was able to do what she needed to do to get ready and put her head in the right place, while I took the brunt of doing all the breakfast. We were the time when they finished eating, it was amazing. And now I said to myself, make the sacrifice and help her in the morning, because it will help her mentally. She didn't ask me, but I thought this support, regardless of how I feel, because it's not about what I feel, it's about supporting my wife.
That's right. Let me read this. Let me read the chat, and then I'm going to read.
Ross is frozen.
Yeah, he might have got a call that's come through. So, okay. In reference to Paul, God made male and female to fit together cohesively, not just for sex. The next one is sorry, someone else just put something in the chat. The male executive function, decision making of the brain is not fully mature until approximately 22 to 25. Yeah, I thought that was like up to 25 years of age. Ross is dropped off. Travel Buffet said, laughing at Debbie, stop trying to act like you don't do nothing, which is absolutely true. They're, acting like they don't do nothing. Better Future Partner says, there's a massive assumption in society that we women have it all right. We learn earlier on in life to express ourselves, acknowledge that men are often catching up. Men and women mature differently. Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. And I think that it's necessary to highlight that. They do say that men, even as boys, they say that boys mature slower than girls. However, something that, as a believer, God has actually, this is something that I've spoken to God about. I've got 4 sons, and I really wanted to make sure that they are emotionally aware and that they're not ignorant to their emotions, that they don't try and do this whole masculine ego thing. I've tried my best so that they're not going to be that way inclined. And I think that oftentimes, if you have conversations with men, you can really identify earlier on that they're not very empathetic. I'm not saying this across the board. I'm saying if you meet somebody, you can tell by having conversations with them that they're not empathic. Sorry, not empathetic. Empathic. They're not emotionally aware. And I think that instead of saying, oh, this isn't the person for me, or that person is just, too macho, too full of pride, it's having conversations with them, having open conversations with them that will make them be more aware of their emotions, more aware of how they're feeling, because sometimes people don't know how they're feeling. They didn't grow up expressing their feelings, or their voices wasn't heard, and so it's important to give them that space. And it leads me on to some of the things that I was actually saying. So the reasons why sometimes men struggle to show their emotion is social expectations. So I didn't really want to go into reading all of it, but it's just socially there's an expectation which we've been talking about. the upbringing, we've spoken about that. Fear of judgment, this is a huge one. Like, if men express themselves in the way that they want to express themselves, they're fearful that they're going to be judged in a certain way. And, you know, we've touched on it, but I think that it's important for us to identify that that fear there does exist. Some men use it as a coping mechanism. So let me just say this: for some men, expressing emotions may be a learned coping mechanism to deal with stress, trauma, or difficult life experience. They may believe that keeping emotions bottled up is the best way to maintain control and avoid feeling overwhelmed, which is true. Like, you don't need to be spreading all your emotions everywhere. You do need to be able to feel the emotions, though, and work through the emotions. Avoiding the emotions, one, they say it can make you sick, but also depression and suicide is huge amongst men, more so than women, because they don't express how they're thinking and feeling. And then I'm going to say the last one for now, and then there's some more that I'm going to share in a little while, and we're like at time, but I think that there's some stuff that you want to say, and I'm going to see if Rossi's going to come back on, and then we'll finish out. The lack of emotional awareness. So some men have a limited emotional awareness or vocabulary, so they can't express how they're feeling. And this is where us as women come in and support them in it, because oftentimes women are able to express and use the right words. And sometimes when you use words to men whose vocabulary isn't vast and they're not really aware of their emotions, it makes them feel intimidated even more and go into their shell. So meet them where they're at, meet them with their language, help them to express it the way that they do. Use analogies. I typically use analogies. Making let me read that again. So some men have a limited emotional awareness or vocabulary, making it challenging for them to identify and express their emotions accurately. This can result in emotional repression or difficulty communicating their feelings with others. And so it's important, it really is important for us to support them in expressing how they feel, and to put words, help them to help to give words to how they're actually feeling. So sometimes even with like my counseling sessions with some of the women, they may say something and I give them an analogy, or I say back to them what they're saying to me, and then I explain to them what that looks like, you know, in real time, because not everybody is able to do that, not able to really break down how they're feeling. So if somebody says that I felt angry, you know, what I do is go in and break down, what does that anger look like? And sometimes it's not that it's anger, but it's coming out as anger. But what it might be is that they're feeling insecure, they're feeling overlooked, they're feeling rejected, they're feeling abandoned. But what is manifesting is anger. And so it's breaking it down so that that person can understand what they're feeling. And this is where emotional awareness comes in, what they're feeling, and then they're able to deal with it. Because oftentimes, if it manifests as anger, what do people do? Tell them to calm down, tell them to be quiet, tell them to do that. And that's not what the problem is. It's just manifesting like that. It's getting to the root of what the problem is. And like I said, it could be insecurity, it could be rejection, it could be abandonment, it could be a number of different things.
Lots of different things.
But it's how it expressed. And oftentimes people are dealing with the symptoms of a problem rather than the actual root of the problem. So over to you.
I think you're so right, because from the childhood of being fostered, and the way that she spoke to us, that put something in my head as a teenager and an adult, more my adult life. I didn't like anybody talking to me in a negative way. Don't shout at me. Don't shout at me.
Yeah.
And I still deal with that. You know, I believe that there's another way to express yourself, because whereas I was angry and I punched walls and I mashed up the place, and you know, I went through DV, you know, I received DV, and I also went into another relationship, and then I was the perpetrator. You know, thank God for deliverance. You know,
absolutely.
Thank God that I was able to look in myself and know that that is not the real me. That's a mask. That's all the pain and the traumas reflecting out on this individual, you know. And once I realized that, I said, you know something, that's not my default mode. Go back to the default mode, yeah, which is expressing yourself, is crying if I need to. And it's not like, oh, I'm going through this, you know, but being able to connect to something that is troubling my spirit, let me say it like that, that's deep, that's changing me in a negative way, you know, or I see myself like, why would you do that? Nah, that ain't the way to carry on. You just one day when we get to divorce, I'm gonna say some things because the things I thought, whew, but let me just read this because you said
let
something.
me just read what Sophia said. So Sophia said in the chat, men must cry, they have emotions too. And this is where sometimes women think that men are void of emotions. And she went on to say this, which is really important, is that a lot of men cry behind closed doors, and that's okay too once they let it out. So important. God gave tears for a reason, to release emotions, stress, and pain. And that's the reason why I say that's important, is because they might not cry in front of you, but they are crying. And so oftentimes, and I say it like this, the enemy will say, he doesn't care. He doesn't care. Because, like Ross said, Paul said, that they will voice that. They will voice that they don't care, but they do actually care. But it's that ego, and it's that pride, and it's that protectiveness. They're protecting themselves from being hurt. Do you get what I mean? And from being vulnerable. So they will say, I don't cry. They will say negative things. They will say, oh, look at you. Or they might, whatever they're saying, it might be negative. But women, the emotions that you are feeling, they're feeling that equally, because they are created with emotions, just like all of us. So sometimes don't listen to what they're saying, you know. Think about what they may be actually feeling, and that it might be a defense mechanism that they're using. Go ahead, Paul.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming back on.
Yeah, definitely, Ross.
Apologies, guys. Sorry.
No worries. That's fine.
No, hey, listen, you should have been here when we would be cutting out, and I disappear offline, can't get online, on and off. Hey, listen, it's the real thing here, believe me. You know? Something that you said, all of what you said, actually. And I just wanted to just read this bit. Over time, men get really good at turning off their emotions or coping with the feelings in a way that is more acceptable for males. It creates a cycle of toxic masculinity, which can be hard to break once it's a habit. And that's very true. You know, some men will look at us and say, Ross, what am I talking about? Them soft. Yeah. Well, come meet me, mate. Yeah, no, not really.
I'll tell you about what's soft. Yeah. I'll give you soft, mate.
See, and violence don't make you strong.
It doesn't make you. It doesn't make you strong.
It doesn't make you strong at all. You know, actually, what makes you strong is to be able to express why you need to bust someone's head. You know, and say to yourself, "Do I need to bust the person's head?" Sometimes people need their head buster. Anyway, that's a different subject. Learn to be vulnerable. The solution to this issue is for men to learn how to become vulnerable and allow themselves to express their emotions freely. However, this is often easier said than done. It can be difficult for men to feel comfortable showing their emotions, especially if they've been hiding them all their lives. Here are some ways that men can start becoming more vulnerable to their emotions. Be honest about the way you're feeling. You said that, Debbie. And I won't read the snippets underneath. Find therapeutic hobbies. See a therapist.
Men don't like seeing therapists.
And they don't like seeing therapists because we don't like to be told that we're broken.
Yeah.
Yeah, and opening up and making ourselves intentionally vulnerable to a stranger.
That's right.
But it's better to do it to a stranger than to sometimes do it to your friend, because then you learn how to do it, and then you can turn to the people who you trust, should be trusting anyway. Me, I tell my friend, listen, I will tell Stephen anything and everything, and he don't laugh at me. We might even laugh about the situation. Yeah. And that's healing as well.
Yeah.
Me as well. Because if you tell it, all right, Ross, if I said to you, boy, my woman ain't even sleeping with me, you know, man, I ain't had none for the last 6 months. Yeah. Some friends would go, what? You listen, I get every night, and they could be going through exactly the same thing.
Not even just that,
Yeah.
they will tell you, find one next somebody outside. Do you know what I mean? Boy, she ain't giving it to you. There's enough women out there. That's what they will be doing, but they wouldn't do that themselves.
Exactly.
They
Or that they are actually going through the same thing.
Right.
Because sometimes women don't want to have you pressing up and pushing your sweaty self on her. They just have that feeling. Whether they're coming on a cycle or after the cycle, it's just what they do. And we just have to accept that that's the way they are. Or like we said, the show, please watch the show about menopause men. Watch it, watch it, watch it. So see a therapist. It just gives dialogue, but please have a look at this Mission Harbor behavioral health, because there's a lot of information on there for us as men and for women to read as well, that get you to understand a lot about men's emotions as well.
Absolutely.
We are born to want to fix. Yeah. So because of we wanting to fix, and when we feel broke, we don't want you to know that we're broken. Yeah. So it's finding that safe place with you as a woman, that we're able to do that.
Yeah.
You're not laughing and telling your girlfriend, you know what you told me, whatever it is. You know, there's a lot that go with it. So a man could be having all this emotion bottled up, and he becomes impotent. Yeah. But you're laughing at him thinking that he's impotent, but really he's broken and stressed and hurt. You know, and that's another show.
It
Woo!
is. Trust
Woo!
We have to talk about the impotency. Like, is that all right? Impotency?
Yes.
Right. So, Ross, there's a question here. I'd like you to answer this one. Do you think that young men struggle more than older men when it comes to crying? And that's from Sophia.
Do you know what I think? I don't think there's a difference, if I'm honest with you, because again, when you're an adult, how long have you petted it up for when you're an adult? And as an adult, you more know what's right from wrong. Whereas when you're a child, you still got so much to learn when it comes to your emotions and how to manage your emotions. Because you got to think about it as grown adults. Just say for argument's sake, I'm stress free for argument's sake. I've learned to become stress free rather than dealing with it, if that makes sense.
That's right.
And I think as a child as well, I think things stick with you more when you're a child. Absolutely. And the impact it had on you at the time, again, because you don't understand your emotion, the impact of what happened to you at the time is more stronger than something that probably would hurt worse as when you're older, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that it all depends on your life experience and how you've dealt with it up until that point, I believe, if I'm honest with you.
Okay, so I wanted to touch a little bit on why sometimes men might come across act cold. The reason why I thought that was a good part of talking about emotions is because that coldness is a mask. Yeah. So if you think of it like this, I was sharing it with my brother earlier on. If you think of it like this, you might go out and you might see someone in the summer with a big coat on. Yeah. You're like, ain't that person hot? Absolutely, they're hot. But they will tell you, no, I'm cold. That's why I got it on. Now, what is it that you're masking? Do you have a knife? Are you a shoplifter? Is your clothes dirty underneath? There's something that you are masking. There's something you are masking. And so when somebody is acting cold, when a man is acting cold, there's something that he's masking. There's something that he's hiding. And the coldness is just how he's projecting. He's coming out with this coldness because he doesn't want to be open, doesn't want to take off the coat, don't want to be vulnerable, don't want to show you what he's hiding. And so women, what we tend to do when a man acts cold, we then rebuttal, we get defensive, we then start responding to the coldness rather than thinking, what is it that he's actually hiding? What is it that he's masking? Instead of creating a safe space for this guy to be able to say, you know what, boy, underneath here, you know, I've got a knife. I shouldn't be carrying it. But boy, on the road, it's rough out here. Or underneath it, do you know what? I stole these stuff, innit? No, I shouldn't be stealing, but it is what it is. I'm finding it difficult in life at the moment. I'm not working. If you give someone a safe space where they're able to express themselves, they will back off the coat. They won't be so cold. They will back off the coat and let you see that, yeah, it is. I know it's hot. I know it's hot out here.
Some men are so conditioned, though.
Huh?
I was going to say some men are so conditioned.
They are conditioned, but again, I think that if you're around the right people, around the right woman, then you can actually break through and help them to express themselves.
You know what I was going to say, Debbie? You know what I was going to say? You, as men, we have to recognize that she's a safe place, because some women will be there supporting, and he still thinks like, boy, she's gonna laugh at me, you know, or if I say that, like one of my exes, when she said, "Is that why you're the way?" When I said I was in foster care and the hurt and the trauma, is that why you're the way you are? From that, I never spoke about it again.
Absolutely.
I didn't want to talk to her, and I wouldn't have talked to her ever again, and I didn't ever again about my trauma, because that was the beginning of me saying, you know, this is what's going on up for me, acting maybe like this, you know. So, and I was 23. Yeah, I was ready to loose myself and express, because I thought you was a safe place, but you wasn't. And
but then, question for you, then when you entered into another relationship, you probably
never had that conversation.
You probably took that into the next relationship and said, I'm not going to be vulnerable. I'm not going to open myself up like this, because that last woman, she did me this, and this is what you're probably going to do the same. So I'm not even going to give you the option to
you know what? I'll tell you what did happen. I was vulnerable in different areas. So that was one, but there were other things. So I then go to talk, and then that one, you acting like this, so I don't talk. So by the time I've had 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 women, whatever, I weren't going. They all did something that stopped me from saying I'm going to open myself.
Yeah,
that's why I had to look at myself and know that, hold on, you have this issue. Yeah, you have I had trust issues. I had to know that I had trust issues and where it came from. And now I had to be, I think Ross said it, I had to be working on the situation myself to grow, so that I would enter into another relationship, like me being married now. I'm not carrying that whole load from behind me, you know, weighing myself up, tucking things in places, and then boom, it sprang on into this relationship.
Question. So even though, say you went through all of those different relationships and then you kind of like shut down bit by bit, this is what I've found, that men tend to test the ground. So test you to see if you're safe. So they will ask you certain things or do certain things to see if you're safe. And if they don't feel safe with that particular thing, that's it, period. They're not going to open up, period.
There is a truth. Don't you think there's a truth, Ross, that we test the water?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, again, I think, I don't know. I don't want to sound sexist, but I feel like, again, a man's vulnerability to a woman's vulnerability is when, again, a lady's able to express it to her friends and stuff like that, and a man isn't able to do that to his friends, essentially, a lot of the time. So having the opposite sex having an opposite sex in the situation, trying to be vulnerable to them, or you think to yourself, you can't even do it with your mates. So how am I going to carry this over into a relationship?
But that's the thing, though, Ross. You said something that is a perception of men that isn't 100% true. Men can speak to their friends. They choose not to because they feel vulnerable. They feel as though they're going to be laughed at. They feel as though it's not a safe place. They can do it, but they have to be around the right people. Like, I can't do that. I cannot do that with every one of my friends. I cannot be vulnerable with all of the women in my life. I cannot, because you're not not going to be able to give me what I need. So I know you lot, and I go to certain people for certain things because I know what you're able to give to me. I've got friends, and I only go to certain people who I know is going to give me wisdom. If I want to go to somebody who I know is going to agree with me, I know who to go to. Do you get what I mean? And so it's not because men do not have that. It's more limited, but it's choosing the right people who you can be vulnerable with. And the reason why sometimes men don't have that is because sometimes they don't ask the right questions. They don't formulate the right relationships with people because they're not being vulnerable. They're not being true in that relationship. So I know a group of guys that hang around together, and I know them individually, yeah? And talking to them individually, you would think that they don't know each other, because one person will say, no, that none of the men I hang with does that. And I'm like, but I've spoken to some of the brethren and they do that. Like, how is it that they're your friends and you don't know how they are? Because none of you are being true. You're not being true to each other, and you're not being true to yourself. When you're not true to yourself, you're not going to be true to other people.
Exactly.
And so you're not going to cultivate those relationships that is going to help you to be vulnerable.
That opens up a whole door there, Debbie. That's why us men sometimes have female friends. And sometimes that's why we have infidelity that take place, because that friend feeds into who you really are, and they know who you are.
Yeah.
So you feel that they're a safe place, and all of a sudden, for some, there's an attraction to that man and to that woman, and they think, why didn't I date you?
He's able to be vulnerable in front of me, kind of thing. That's what they're saying to themselves.
Yeah,
that's right.
And next thing, this is why sometimes you find a man hooking up with your best friend, or the best friend hooking up. Your girlfriend is hooking up with your brother or whatever. It's because he has found that safe place in that woman. And so for women, I mean, I don't think men. I think you can have female friends, but they need to know the boundaries.
Yeah, absolutely. We spoke about that, didn't we?
There's certain things that you don't talk about. With,
do you know what? When you got those relationships, man, you can't even really be talking to them about your wife. You can't be talking about your issues with your wife and that lot, because that woman will be like, do you know what? I would never do that.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
I would never say that. That's just not my character.
So she's got a halo and wings. You just
exactly. You can hear the music in it.
Why is she doing that? Do you get what I mean? And then it's like, no. I say to people, if you've got a male friend, yeah, or a female friend, your husband and your wife should know who they are. Yeah. That's should be standard. They should know who they are. And there's not conversation. You're not having conversations with that person about your husband or your wife. Period.
If they ring your phone, you should be able to talk to them.
You should be able to talk to them in front of your partner.
Right in front of your husband. Right in front of your partner.
If you can't do that, something's not right.
It's
you know
not
what I mean?
Right.
I wanted to say this, about the code behavior. So the code and the distance behavior. So it like I said about the code, could be a defense mechanism. It could be fear of intimacy. It also could be their style of communication, which I think if their style of communication is like that, it's normally because they are reserved for some reason. Like, you get some people and they say they was really shy. I was somebody that was considered shy because I was scared of people's opinions. I thought if I share my true opinions and my thoughts and my feelings, people probably not going to like me. So I became reserved and didn't really say much, which came across as me being shy, but I wasn't really shy. Do you know what I mean? In certain settings, like, you know, like you see some people and it's just like, oh, I thought that person was shy. No, they're not really shy. It's in certain settings, environments that they feel vulnerable and they feel like they can't express themselves. Avoid conflict. So sometimes men have this demeanor where they might seem cold, they might seem distant because they're trying to avoid the conflict. And also there could be mental health issues there. It could be a variation of things. I wanted to kind of end out kind of talking about because I've got some these are conversations that I have with people, but I wanted to kind of end out with how we could really help to facilitate people dealing with their emotions. And I wanted to kind of throw it out to you guys and think, what are ways that you can think in order to help those that are listening, how they can manage their emotions better, how they can express their emotions, how they can manage and express their emotions more as men.
I think you said some key things. Is being true to yourself, about yourself. If you find yourself that you're violent, irritable, cold, I think because we know ourselves, we know the things that we do, you know, and unless you're a madman, yeah, we know what we do. So, and why we do it. And if you don't know why you do it, that's when you're going to search yourself to understand your childhood or what your mum might have done or your dad might have done or your cousin might have done.
So
some people have sexual abuse that has taken on, you know, this. Now you're a man. You think
Sorry, can I just
yourself,
interject quickly? My battery's on 1%, and for some reason the phone is not charging. It's really, really hot.
say what you got to say, though.
Say your last.
Yeah. So what I'd like to say quickly, number one, thank you for having me. I think it's a really good chat. I just want to add on. I think you need to identify a good person to speak to. So I'm going to shout out one of my friends. Hopefully he's listening. Andrew. He's one of them people. I can express myself to him. Although sometimes you do want someone to be your yes man, he will never be that yes man. And I think he's that guy that he's one of them people that I think everybody needs in their friendship group. And he will always be honest, and he always asks, "What did you do?" Like, do you see what I mean? So it's things like that. It's people like that that make you realize, you know what, Ross? Maybe you should think about that situation. Maybe you should have thought about reacting in the way that you did, or saying what you said. So, yeah, I just want to end by saying that. And thank you so much again. Thank you for the people in the comments, and I appreciate it. I hope to be here again Monday.
Absolutely, we'll definitely call on you again, Ross. Thanks a lot for your input. Yeah, so Paul, you were saying.
I was going to say on the back of Ross is that what came to mind is like me. I said, Stephen, you know, my best friend Stephen. I think that when you have someone like-minded like that, you need a group. You know, you need to, because I'm gonna reach out to Ross, you know, and then, you know, we'll do something. We need to be in a setting as men to be able to talk about these real issues that we incur in our relationships and in ourselves, you know. And I think that being in an environment with like-minded, and we said it earlier, like-minded men who express themselves, other men who aren't like that are able to come in. And we need to show them. You know, we need to show our sons. We need to show our cousins. We need, if you know a woman and she's bringing up her children and you're around her, don't just be around her because you want to get some. Yeah, be there, and especially if she's got sons, and teach them how to be a man. Take them out and spend time with them. You know, and it will help.
Yeah.
Even if it's the case, I mean, we do it with our children, but there's this thing about having your own children and looking after other people's children.
Mm.
You know, by taking them out, your nephew or whatever else, you're able to now show what it means to be a man. You know, and
Mm.
it is sitting down. I talk to Elijah, that's my last son. I speak to all my children, but I talk to them about gang affiliation, the way they dress, hanging trousers. You know, I touch on all different subjects. I took on sex. You know, he's 13 now. He's in puberty. He's going to feel all these things. You know, so I talk to him about all of these things, and also make him aware that it's okay to be emotional and to let yourself cry,
Mm-hmm.
but find the balance of vulnerability and there's a word that I want, and this it's there,
To put your tongue.
vulnerability and assertiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was not that one, but I use that one, assertiveness, because you can be vulnerable and assertive.
Mm.
You're a leader. We were born to lead as men.
Mm.
There's, it's not because we said, it's from the beginning. God created like that we lead,
Mm.
you know, and you have to stand up and at the same time be vulnerable, be understanding, work on yourself, and still lead at the same time.
Mm.
And it does take time, but having like-minded men or men who recognizes the balance around you can help.
So I wanted to read this comment, and then I'm going to share some of the ways that I think that we can help some of the men. So that's so true, Debbie. Certain friends that you have specific conversations with, you can also look at yourself and see the kind of the friend you are, which is absolutely true. So I wanted to just kind of finish out with this. I think that it's important to create a safe environment, which is something that we
Definitely.
actually spoke about. It's non-judgmental, a space where the man can express himself without ridicule, without criticism, without fear, and to, like I said earlier on, to validate his feelings, his emotions.
Definitely.
To make him know that he is heard. And you don't have to agree with everything. You just need to make them know that they're heard and not to dismiss it. Lead by example. So how do you do that? You model that openness, that honesty, that transparency. You model that, and this fosters that person to start to do the same over a period of time. It doesn't happen straight away. Sharing your emotions and your feelings openly and demonstrating your vulnerability in a natural way, in a healthy way. Do you get what I mean? Not in a way where you're expressing it and you're being vulnerable and you're putting everything out there, and you know that that person isn't valuing what you're actually putting out there. Be patient and understanding, that's non-negotiable. But this is one of the ones that I found really, really important, and I do this in counseling. I ask a lot of open questions. That way that person is able to express themselves. If you just say, are you doing okay today, they will just say yes or no. If you say, how was your day today, it's an open question. So then they're able to express how their day was. If you ask a lot of open questions, and if you show that you are interested in, I think when you are asking open questions, it's showing that you're interested in what it is that they've got to say. When you're asking closed questions, you're not really, really giving room for them really to express themselves. And I learned this as a mum, to ask I very rarely asked my children, did you have a good day today? They would say yes or no. I would say, how was your day today?
That's what I say.
What did you do today? Because I'm interested. Do you get what I mean? I don't want yes or no answers. So asking open questions will lead you into a conversation which should give them the ability to open up and express themselves a little bit more. Respect their boundaries, so their comfort level. So there was one time I was with someone and I was talking to them, and I was talking to them about childhood things, and I noticed that their body language changed. I noticed their tone changed. I noticed that they were starting to get really upset with what they was expressing. And it was good that they was expressing it, but I actually closed down that conversation and took, in counseling terms, I kind of took them out of that room so that they wasn't, because they was feeling that emotion right there and then, and it wasn't to me, it wasn't a safe place for them to really express that. So it's really respecting their boundaries and really allowing them to express themselves in a safe environment where you're able to really speak to them, holistically about what's going on. Offering support and encouragement, that's non-negotiable. If you want people to express themselves, then and be emotionally aware, you're going to need to offer the support. Explore different outlets. So encourage them to explore different ways of expressing themselves. So, like there's sometimes in different environments, people are going to express themselves differently. So create an environment where they can express themselves. So you might go for a walk, you might go for dinner, you might, do some kind of creativity stuff. When people are creative, they tend to express themselves a little bit more. And I've put down there, seek professional help. Like I said earlier on, a lot of men don't really want to go and get professional help because it just makes them feel even more worse, because it's going to open up a can of worms if they're not really willing and ready to express themselves to you. And this is the women, they're going to really find it difficult to open and express themselves to a stranger. And it's really them kind of doing the work within themselves to get to a place where they are able to be more honest and vulnerable and truthful with themselves and with you, that will foster them wanting to go ahead and, get professional help. And sometimes it's not the professional help that they always need. You can be that person that they can rely on to talk to and be vulnerable, and friends and family could be enough. I'm not saying that they might not need to get professional help, but it could be enough for them to start to express themselves and be emotionally aware. So that's what I wanted to kind of end with, giving practical tools in order to support. And if you're a woman out there and you're finding yourself with somebody who isn't emotionally aware, who's not really expressive, who's quite cold, who's not really willing to express themselves, and their emotions are like, they seem void of emotions, get in contact. We'll have a conversation. We can support you in trying to create an environment where this doesn't seem so icy cold, and you don't feel as though you're being heard and he don't feel as though he's being heard. Get in contact, and we will see how we can help and support you, even signpost you if necessary. Support.
Definitely.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Do you know what?
Last words.
I don't have anything more. What you said is necessary. All of what you said is necessary, and it's really wanting to. The key thing what you said as well is validate what he or she, is expressing, because that's their thoughts, that's their emotions. You can't say something negative about someone's thought and feeling. That's how they feel, whether right or wrong in your eyes. That's how they feel.
That's true to them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I spoke to someone today, and one of the things that they was talking about is that they gave everything in the beginning, cook for you, clean for you, doing all these kind of things for you. And he's sitting back now, and she said no, because he's not giving back the other way. And it's important for him to identify, why do you feel that you don't want to give back? Why are you acting all cold? And dismissive and blank whatever, because she in turn is never going to give you what you want now. You loved it when you got it, but now you don't have it. She's away, but you're not looking at yourself to be able to say, rah, why did she change? Or why did I change? Why am I changing now that she's not doing these things? Because you want the things that she's doing, but that's selfish. You must give as well. And for you to be able to say, because culturally, in some cultures, that is it. You do as a woman, and that's it. That's it. Yeah.
Why did the accent change?
I don't know, but it needs to be said like that.
That's what makes me laugh, because sometimes you say it with a certain accent, and it's just like, where'd that come from?
And the thing is that where you got it from, and they say it's culture, is it? Yeah. Well, in our culture, it's like that. Well, in the Holy Scriptures, that tops what your culture is. There's a way that we should be as men, you know, and we do need to lead, and we need to express ourselves, because a woman will give us the respect and the love and everything that you need as a man when you are open. And she sees that, you know what, she should be, because some women, they're going through their own traumas. Yeah. But she should be able to say, you know what, I respect this man, you know. I respect him for expressing himself. I respect him for telling me those little secret things. When you're dating someone, you'll be amazed what you tell them. And then, I mean, not everything, you don't tell them, but you do half open yourself so they can see you to like you, because you want to be liked. So if you close yourself off, how can you expect the person to like you?
Well, this is what I say. When you put your walls up, you stop. When you stop doing certain things and you put your walls up, it stops them from coming in, and it stops you from going out.
Exactly.
And
I think that we'll end on
it's
that.
counterproductive. Do you get what I mean? But yeah, thanks for sharing
End on that wise note.
Yeah, I think that today's subject, I think it's really important for us to really delve a little deeper. I think it's food for thought for everyone that's listening, both men and women. And I'm glad that we've had the conversation about his emotions. I don't want to leave the men behind. You know, I want to be able to have those conversations about the men, and, you know, make them know that the women are here, and they hear and they see, and their emotions are valid, you know. So thanks, guys. Thank you, Ross. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you,
Good
Debbie. Thank you, Ross.
Good input. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And
thank you, all the guests.
Yeah, until next week.
Yeah.
Please share. The topics that we are doing is really valuable to people out there. And if there's anything that you might think that you want us to talk about, then please get in contact with us. Some of you know us personally, some of you don't, but you can DM us on Facebook and on Instagram. We've got a presence on there, so we'll be able to pick up your messages. And if you want to join us live, then again, you can DM us and we will make that happen. So
you can also if you leave a comment under the videos on YouTube, saying what it is that you'd like to talk about, or that you'd like to join the show, we'll get in contact with you. And if you are a professional person in a professional capacity, let's say, then please do come and join us, and maybe bring a subject that you want to, or maybe just be a guest on one of our shows.
Share your expertise with everyone.
Absolutely.
So, and also I wanted to say that when you go on to YouTube, you'll find our previous podcasts under the live section. Not all of them is on the front end of the page. They need to be exported over onto the front, but all of them is on the live page, so you'll see lots of them on there. I just wanted to put that out there because somebody did contact me and said, oh, I only saw a couple of them on there. There's lots of them on there. Go back and watch the replays. Share your thoughts and your opinions with us. Please subscribe, hit the notification buttons so you'll be able to know when we are going live. Right, that's it for tonight, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
We've gone well over the hour, which is quite common for us, isn't it, when it's topics like this? But yeah, you guys have a good rest of the week until next time. We will catch you soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.